pretty high on the Houston Texans already, and it's going to be C.J. Stroud. I mean, he's pretty much the fifth or fourth quarterback going off the board. It's pretty much consists of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Those are your top three guys. And then you have Lamar going off the board. And then it's pretty much after that, it's either Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud. Looking at his projected totals, 306.7. He's coming off of a phenomenal rookie season. And the offense really got better. You got Joe Mixon in the backfield. He's going to be one of the pass catchers. And really, the riches got richer in this wide receiver room. You already had a guy like Tank Dell. We saw him connection in the preseason with C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell. And then you bring in Stephon Diggs when you already have a guy like Nico Collins. And you can't forget about the tight end position with Dalton Schultz. So there are just a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. I just think that C.J. Stroud, he's just a lock to be a top 10 quarterback. And I can see him really, if the Houston Texans are aware that I think that they could be, maybe like an 11-win, 12-win team, then C.J. Stroud, it's got to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback for me. So just like the way that you can get him, he's in the middle round. If you don't get one of the elite guys, Mahomes, Allen, or Hurts, I feel like Stroud could be right there with them. So really coming off a phenomenal season, gets more pass catchers for him. So I'm definitely trying to get C.J. Stroud as much as I can in drafts this season. Let's go to another quarterback. This is more of like a late round guy, a middle round guy if you are playing in 12-team leagues. And this is going to be a lot of upside in the rushing department, and that's going to be Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. I am all in on this Washington Commanders offense. They got Brian Robinson, got Austin Eckler in the back. Pretty much going to be a split backfield, but if I would have to guess, Brian Robinson will be their RB1 in that offense. So look at the wide receivers. You got the Jahan Dotson. Then you also have Terry McLaurin. So I think that if you want one of those wide receivers, I would probably go with Terry McLaurin outside of all those guys. But looking at Jaden Daniels, very solid in the preseason. He had that 46-yard pass, and then he ran it in with a 5-yard touchdown. And that's exactly what you're looking for. I think that if you like a guy like Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels is pretty much going to do what he can too. So I think that this Washington Commanders offense, no one's really talking about this Commanders offense. I think that they're going to be an improved bunch. This was a team that couldn't really move the football last season, but get in Jaden Daniels. Look where you get him at ADP, pick 108. I think that if you pass up on pretty much all the guys that I just talked about and you get Jaden Daniels, I would definitely be confident of him being my starting quarterback. And if you have him coming off of the bench too, if one of your guys goes down or is not performing as you expected, then Jaden Daniels, you're looking at his passing department. I think that he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. Then you get the rushing game too. We love those quarterbacks in fantasy that could do both. And I think that Jaden Daniels, coming off a Heisman Trophy winning season at LSU, I'm all in on Jaden Daniels if I miss out on one of the top guys. So draft Jaden Daniels in the middle round, in the late round, just depending on what type of format league that you play in. Now let's go on to the running backs. This was another guy that I've been really talking up, and that is Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. And I must admit, for the past couple of seasons, I've been a little bit off on Derrick Henry, but I learned my lesson. You can't be off on Derrick Henry no matter what his age is. He's now over age of 30, and he's in a much better offense now. This is an offense that's going to run the football. This is going to be one of the more run-heavy offenses in the league. You really look at the wide receivers. Zay Flowers will probably be the wide receiver 1. Rashad Bateman, can he stay healthy on the field? You just never know. And then Mark Andrews, one of your top tight ends in the league, can he stay on the field? That's definitely going to be the concern. But I think the only factor is Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson is going to get his, but when the Ravens are in the goal line, Derrick Henry is going to get him a fair share of touchdowns. So this is going to be a run-heavy offense. That's why I really like Derrick Henry. And to get him in round number 2, I think that's a steal. I think that if you miss out on CMC, Breece Hall, Bijan, one of those top running backs, and you have Derrick Henry as your RB1, or if you get one of your top running backs and pair with Derrick Henry, then you're really set at the running back position. So I feel confident even if you have Derrick Henry as your RB1, but if you have a complement to the RB2, that's a pretty good start to your fantasy drafts. Let's get on to the next running back, and we're going to go to the AFC West and Isaiah Pacheco. if you're looking for consistency in fantasy football for the past couple of years, it's been Pacheco. And he really was a winner in the free agency market. Jerick McKinnon is no longer on this roster. And the guy outside of that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm not really too high on him. I think that this is going to be the Isaiah Pacheco show. I think that if you're looking for a 3-down running back, this is the guy for them. And there are some concerns into this offense. Travis Kelce coming off one of his worst seasons in the NFL. We'll see if he can bounce back. And you're looking at the wide receivers. I mean, you already have Marquise Brown. He's dealing with an injury. Rashee Rice, who knows if he's going to have a suspension or not. And then that really leaves Xavier Worthy. So Isaiah Pacheco, he could definitely run between the tackles, but he's also one of the more elite running backs in the NFL that can catch some passes out of the backfield. So getting Pacheco in the second and third round of your drafts, I mean, you're getting a first-round talent to me. I think that he could really set himself up for being a top 10. Maybe he can even sneak into the top 5, just depending on what this offense can do. But he's in one of the best offenses in the league. If you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes throwing the rock to you, then yeah, I am definitely drafting Isaiah Pacheco. I would feel confident in him as your RB1, but like I mentioned with Derrick Henry, getting him as a compliment to one of your top running backs would definitely be better. So let's go on now to the wide receivers. There might be a little bit of controversy, but I'm very high on this guy, and it's Malik Nabers with the New York Giants. Now, I know that people are going to say that he's already dealing with injury already. Yes, he had that fight in in the preseason, but right now we did have reports that he is dealing with an ankle sprain, but I think that he's going to be back for a regular season. And we're all worried about Daniel Jones, but I mean, this guy is going to get all the targets. Who else is going to get? Who else is going to catch the ball on this offense? Really, nobody. Daniel Jones is looking to Malik Nabers. But yeah. I mean, getting him where you can. I mean, this is pretty much drafting your wide receiver 1. I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 1. I would either want him as my wide receiver 2. And if you play, wide receiver 3 leagues, I want him as my wide receiver 3, maybe a flex. But I think that outside, of the rookies, I think that, you could draft Marvin Harrison. But outside of that, I think that Malik Nabers is the second best rookie that you can get. He's going to be on offense that he's, looking for target share. I think he's going to be one of the highest wide receivers getting most of that. Now let's go on to the next wide receiver. I might be pulling some of y'all back after the Malik Nabers if you weren't too high on him. I'm going to go with Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've had some love, some hate for Mike Evans in the past couple of seasons, but you can't deny it. I'm looking at the last offseason, and we were wondering, how good is this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense going to be? Who's going to be the quarterback? Well, if you drafted Mike Evans, you were very happy with your pick last year, as Baker Mayfield absolutely cooked defenses last year. And you always got to worry about Chris Godwin, but Godwin also is coming off one of his, honestly, I wouldn't want to call it worse fantasy performances, but he definitely was a dud in fantasy last season. I mean, even people are drafting him ahead of Mike Evans, and Mike Evans had a phenomenal season. So I think that, the touchdowns probably going to come down a notch. But, I mean, look, you saw it last season with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans connection. It's there. So, yeah, if I see Mike Evans on that draft board, you better be clicking.
What's this, Tyler? There. Mike Evans love from Tyler?
Yep, I'm loving Mike Evans this season. I'm definitely all in on this Tampa Bay offense. Even Rachaad White. I didn't put him on here, but I love Rachaad White. I
like Rachaad as well.
Yeah, he can finish in the top 10. That's one of the guys that I love, too. Now let's go on to the tight end. Let's go to Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. And there's some targets that's up in the air. Who's going to get him? Is it going to be James Cook? Is it going to be Dalton Kincaid? You don't have Gabe Davis there anymore. You don't have Stephon Diggs. And, really the wide receivers that you look at, you brought in Curtis Samuel. You have Khalil Shakir. You drafted the Florida State wide receiver, the rookie of Keon Coleman. You have Dawson Knox. I have not been a fan of Dawson Knox the whole entire time that he's been on the Buffalo Bills. I think that Dalton Kincaid, you see what Travis Kelce did the past couple of seasons in the Chiefs. I think that really the Dalton Kincaid role can really come into effect in Buffalo. I think that he's going to get a lot of touchdowns this season. I think 5 is right there around that mark of what I could see him. I think that he's going to be one of the top tight ends here in the league. I think that Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce are probably going to be your top 2 guys. But honestly, I think the door is wide open for that number 3. And I think that Dalton Kincaid, he's the 5th tight end going off the board. And I think that is an extreme value. I think that Dalton Kincaid can really sneak in being the top 3